the Postmodern Art Podcast, the podcast dedicated to giving artists who are wowing the world over the platform they deserve. I am your host, Nathan Ragland, and boy, believe me when I tell you that we have one frightening good guest for this week. Today's guest is Marta Svetek, a motion capture actress and voice actress for incredible video games such as the most recent Five Nights at Freddy Security Breach, among others. In that game alone, she was the voice of Gregory, Vanny, and Roxanne Wolf. I mean, she had such a big role in that game, I didn't know if I could handle this episode by myself. So of course I had to bring along the wonderful producer TipsyJHearts to help make sure this podcast goes smoothly. And I'm pretty sure whether or not it was smooth, especially with how bad I butchered up the intro, it was still a wonderful interview, and I know you guys are going to enjoy as much as I did. If you enjoy Marta's work, make sure you follow her in all the links that we'll have down below. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. And for each of those platforms, whatever you can give a positive rating to, please do. It always helps the podcast. If you want to go a little bit further with that support, I have a merch shop at pmap.creator-spring.com where you can wear some incredible designs such as the most recent retro style. If you want to go even one step further with that support, maybe you should be a part of the Apocalypse Podcast Network Discord server, where you can hear more about this podcast and other outstanding ones in the network. In fact, let's hear about another tantalizing podcast in the Apocalypse Podcast Network.
Art and entertainment inspire each of us in different ways, but have you ever wondered what inspires the people who create our cultural touchstones? I'm Adam Unz, and on the Spark Parade podcast, I geek out with artists and entertainers about their cultural spark of inspiration. Everything from Shakespeare to South Park. You'll hear from artists like Connor Oberst on Northern Exposure, Roisin Murphy on Terrence Conran's The Housebook, and Adrian Young on Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. The Spark Parade, where artists reveal their cultural inspirations to spark the inspiration in you. Find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And now, without further ado, please enjoy the Postmodern Art Podcast. Hello.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
oh my God.
To apologize.
All over the place. No, I hate being late. You guys don't understand. I hate it.
Well, to be fair, you're technically already, a week late because we were planning for last week and then something came up.
No, God.
No, again, you do not need to apologize. This is a very laid-back sort of environment or whatnot. If you're a few minutes late, that's fine. We completely understand. We know that life happens.
Yeah. We definitely understand, and we just want to say thank you so much for taking the time for doing part of our podcast and stuff. It really means a lot to us, more for me.
Thank you for taking an interest in my work. It's very flattering. I'm always happy to talk about it. Really, what happened was I live near a stadium, and it's game day, and I forgot, and I have a bunch of stuff to do every day, like outside of my apartment, and I was like, oh no, not today.
I was gonna say, as someone that lives in a college town close to like all sorts of different sports venues and stuff, I completely understand where you're coming from. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was gonna say
football stadiums here are like.
Yeah. I was gonna say I was talking to Maria before you hopped in the call real quickly. As a matter of fact, for our college football, American football town, we just won like the national championship for the first time in like 40 years, and everyone celebrated, and everyone got COVID.
Of course. Yeah. Well, congratulations. I yay, good things, but...
It's one of those, we haven't had one in 40 years. I couldn't care if we waited another 40 to get another one, okay?
Yeah, that's pretty much my outlook on most of these things, but, It's kind of weird because I used to compete in sports and stuff like that, and I should be more into like, yes, go sports. But really, I
think you can agree, like, experiencing the sport versus, like, watching it for entertainment are two completely, mindsets more than anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the only time I ever been... you guys at least know your sports. The only time I ever, know a sport is when FIFA comes around, because that's when my country starts playing.
Hey, there you go.
Hey, which country is that?
Oh, it's Colombia.
Oh, lovely. I have a bunch of friends from there, actually. I met under the weirdest circumstances because I used to live in Munich, and obviously, back in my day, I was fluent in German. No, but I was there taking kind of like a year between like graduating from college. Actually ended up sort of saving up some money, which is bizarre. Let's put loans aside. I took a little bit of a break because I went from like a bachelor's to a master's, and I was just completely burnt out by the time I came out. And so I was in Munich, and every other person in that language school where I was like, I'm just gonna, learn a little bit more German, they were from South America, and actually most of them from Colombia. It's crazy.
Interesting.
Of all the places in the world, apparently Germany's very popular. But yeah,
I've at least heard before that.
My little weird anecdote.
I was gonna say I've heard before that like German is compared to some of the other world languages out there, German is relatively easy to learn. I imagine for a lot of places, no, it's not.
No,
it's grammatically one of the more complicated ones, and it has a lot of rules that do not exist in most other languages. Really? So for me, it was. So for me, it was actually quite easy because Slovenian, which I'm originally from Slovenia, Slovenian has it's a Slavic language, but it has a lot of German influences because of historical influences. So we have a lot of rules that even if they're not the same, they follow the same logic. Whereas for somebody, let's say an English speaker or a Spanish speaker, when those rules of speaking, of sentence forming do not exist at all, and you've never come across it, trying to wrap your mind around that concept is really, really challenging. Like, they have like these weird conjugations. You have the way you prefix or suffix a word is like different. The way that, and a lot of
overly complicated rules and such.
A lot of exceptions to the rules. Yeah. Exceptions to rules. So it's like, do this for every word that you say in this tense, except for all these other ones.
Why do you sound like you're just describing English now?
Oh yeah, I am. Basically.
Before we really get started, I just have one question I need to ask. Your name, I know it's Marta. How do you pronounce your last name? Is it Svetek?
It's Svetek. It's just say it the way you did. Just stress the first syllable instead of
Svetek.
Yeah, Svetek.
Yeah, close enough. Okay. If I say it like it's so funny. It's not difficult to spell,
right?
But to say correctly, I'm not bothered. It's tricky because it has an E sound that again doesn't exist in the English language. So it's Svetek, as a narrow E and a wide E.
Okay.
But to a lot of people, it sounds like Svetek. It's not round, it's E. Svetek.
Svetek.
Close enough. Yeah, it's quite not bad.
I wanted to be 100% sure because it wouldn't be my first time butchering someone's name on this podcast, sadly.
If in doubt, just say Marta. It's just the mononym.
It's only for this little intro thing I'm gonna have after the icebreaker question. Past that, I'm just gonna be saying Marta the rest of the time. So there you go.
Hey, I have one rule.
Go for it.
Do not call me Martha.
Obviously,
I'm not Martha. That one has such a history in it where I can't deal. Everybody here in the UK, there are very few Martas. It's all Martha. Whereas stateside, it's not so unusual. And I've had issues where, in previous jobs where I needed security clearance, they would spell my name with an H, and then they wouldn't let me in because my ID obviously doesn't say Martha.
It says Marta.
It's like,
I totally get that. Yeah. I understand. All right, Marta, before we really get going, I must ask the icebreaker question of the podcast. And Maria, I want to get your input because you haven't answered this before either. You've answered the broader one, but not the more specific one.
Okay.
Basically, let's say you get an opportunity to go to a deserted island on your own accord. It is just you, alone with your thoughts. You get to take a step back, breathe, relax. But to help make sure you don't go completely insane, you get to bring one piece of media or one piece of art with you. What is that one piece?
Oh my God. I need preparation. I need to think about this.
Listen, it's all been improv with this podcast, but I was not expecting that type of question to come up. But Nat, why did you do this to me?
Do you not remember the 50th episode when I was asked the question about like if I was to bring one type of media or one type of art? I decided to narrow it down a little bit.
I remember that question, but I was hoping it wasn't that question at the same time.
Like, what media? What do you mean by what media? Like, what show, what game, or what system? Or
whatever you consider art or media. So whether it be a video game, whether it be a movie, a full series, a musician, or a type of an album or something along the lines of that, whatever you consider that's in the realm.
Ooh. Oh my God. That is a difficult question. I know. I mean, right. Probably the Lord of the Rings trilogy is probably my safest bet because I just infinitely enjoy that. At no point does that become tedious or in any way unpleasant to me. The thing is, I love video games so much.
Someone that works in video games liking video games. How peculiar.
Well, you know what? It's not that common among video game voice actors. It's not.
I was gonna say, to be fair, I've heard Nolan North saying that he hadn't played like the Uncharted series before a certain point, something along the lines of that.
For games, it's weird because I kind of have phases. There's no one overarching like best game ever.
That's fair.
And if I were to say like one of the most pivotal ones for me was Unreal Tournament 1999, old school. I need people to play that with, and nobody plays that anymore.
I mean, you know what? Fair. I was gonna say you do have like internet access on this island if that helps, but
yeah, but nobody plays it anymore, even online. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so I guess the closest one to that right now, actually, I've been really getting into surprise Battlefield. Okay. 2042, and it's been actually. It took me a while to get into it because the fourth wall breaks for me so much because I'm in it. Because I'm the one yelling at you on the Russian side. I'm the one barking commands out. And so I had to... I played it, and then I loved the game. It kind of just... I know it's got a lot of criticism, but for me, it scratches the right itch.
There you go.
If you know, like I gotta say. For me, it's just fun mayhem. And... but I needed to be like, well, okay, I can't... I'm one of those people that has never gotten used to hearing their own voice. I always cringe. Always. And so...
Oh my God.
Yeah.
As someone that does a podcast and has to listen to his voice on a weekly basis, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, so you can imagine. But I guess... Well, another one that I played... Probably literally thousands of hours of is Destiny 2. So some of those. I know I'm not picking one. If I have to pick one, it'll be Lord of the Rings. Okay? But here's some other contenders. Also, the Witcher game series. Those,
Look, I'm very loose and open with this answer. So all that stuff, I'll put that all into consideration as well. Maria, have you thought of your answer?
Yes, I have. And I might be sounding really biased as fuck right now. But I guess like in terms of like because currently I'm in this state, I totally would just bring Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach with me.
Good answer.
Hear me out. It's not just a great game in my personal opinion. It's just the fact that there's like 5 different endings, so you're never gonna get bored. And like, all the animatronics will, like, try to kill you anyway, so, like, you have that chance to kind of start over. So you have, like, so many ways to get to those 5 endings.
There we go. I mean,
perfect answer.
I'll go ahead and send you the $25 for saying that. No, I'm joking.
Steel will send you the check. Check's in the mail.
There you go. But nevertheless, Lord of the Rings, and for Maria, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. That's your guys' answer. You're locking that in.
Locking it in.
Yes. And also Killer Clowns from Outer Space, because I can't live without that.
Fair enough. But with that, I can't think of a better way to start the Postmodern Art Podcast. Welcome, everyone. I am one of the hosts of today, Nathan Ragland. With me as well, Maria, you want to introduce yourself real quickly?
Hi, I go by TipsyJHearts on my social medias, but obviously my name is Maria because why not? And I'm the producer.
I mean, it's one of those we'll probably flip between. I'll probably flip between Tipsy and Maria throughout the entire thing. So there you go. But
good to know.
Exactly. But nevertheless, follow. Make sure to like, subscribe, or follow whatever streaming platform you prefer for the Postmodern Art Podcast. I am part of the Apocalypse Podcast Network. Go to apocalypsepodcastnetwork.com for more about this podcast and other outstanding ones in the network. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PostmodArtPod for future updates and guest announcements, including today's guest. She is a visual effects artist and actress for video games such as Total War Warhammer 2, Battlefield 2042.
Can I stop you there? Sorry, 1 second. I'm not a VFX artist.
My bad. Thank you for... I'll just...
I work for a visual effects company, but I'm not an artist.
Okay, I saw the thing on your profile that said I also do VFX stuff. I thought that meant you were also a visual effects artist. My bad.
Sorry. My bad as well for being vague.
It's, fair enough. Then in that case, let me try that again. I'll probably still leave this in, though.
Sorry.
She is an actress for the likes of film and video games such as Total War Warhammer 2, Battlefield 2042, and most prominently, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. Welcome to the podcast, Marta Svetek. God, I had the massive brain fart. Svetek.
You're getting it.
Marta Svetek, thank you so much for being here. As you can tell, I'm a little nervous.
Don't be.
How are you doing?
You're just hanging out. I'm doing good. Yeah, it's been a bit of an unusually hectic day, but other than that, it's been pretty great and kind of been enjoying riding the wave of just the love for Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. Just everybody's been so amazing, and it's just like a daily bit of positivity on my phone.
There you go.
Just it's nice.
I can only imagine. But before we really divulge too much into kind of the positivity you've been getting these days, I want to go back just a little bit, and I want to know more or less the origin story of Marta. What got you interested in art and acting in the first place?
Oh my God. How far back? I don't know. I've always been I enjoyed performing. I had parents that very much they were high achievers, and so there's very much a very strict household in terms of like you will train and everything, you will have a complete skill set and everything, and that includes not just sports but art and things like that. So I danced ballet for 8 years, so I got used to performing, and things like that. And I just felt really at home performing. I really enjoyed it, so I always got involved in it somehow. But see, I'm originally from Slovenia, which is a country of 2 million people, and it is, it's always like, oh, it's a poor country. It's not a poor country. It's totally fine. Everything is perfectly average. But in a country of 2 million people, it's very difficult to think of acting or performing as a career because there's literally not enough people to come see you, right? And the internet and internet culture and the way we do things now was unthinkable even in 1999, 2000. We couldn't imagine the stuff that we can do now. It just wasn't a thing. So I put that to one side and went through the normal academic route, went to business school, things like that. But I never had a time when I wasn't involved in doing something creative or just, having a drawing phase or dance or music or whatever. I had to let it out somehow, even though I was going down the very straight and narrow route of like, corporate job and whatever. And so it wasn't until I moved to London, again, not for acting, that I somehow fell into acting. I found that they were doing this zombie immersive theater production that wasn't just a scare maze, because most of the time when they said like it's zombie apocalypse immersive theater, by the way, for those who don't know, is you're not on a stage. The audience goes through the space and they interact with you, and it's a lot of improv.
Okay.
There's very little scripting to it in terms of dialogue. You just interact, and you're like kind of part of the show. And for a while, one place that does it really well, it's Punch Drunk Productions. Punch Drunk Productions. I talk for a living, for crying out loud. What am I stuttering? Anyway, so it's a very cool type of performance, and they needed zombies for this immersive theater zombie apocalypse thing. It was nuts, and I was like, oh my god, yes, back into performing. I love it. Around the same time, I was working for a tech startup that was doing various kinds of learning and development and digital skills training, whatever. The concept was like, here's a millennial, and they'll tell you about how the internet works, large corporate CEO man. And so one of the companies that we were actually working for, and I was telling what to do, is HSBC, which is a global bank. And we're doing this new kind of what is the interwebs, like kind of training, e-learning thing. And I remember running late, delivering a pilot episode of this that involved on-camera stuff and animation. And I went, excuse me, and I was doing the on-camera stuff because I had the most neutral accent. And I was like, oh my God, no, we ran out of time to get a VO. I was just going to put a coat over my head with a mic like this one here, just a USB mic, and I was going to record the pilot. And they heard it, and it's like, we like her voice, let's just use her. So I was like in a studio for the next 5 weeks recording this thing for like a global internal like program, and I'm like, you know what, this is kind of fun. Maybe I can do this.
Wow. And
that was only 2016. Yeah, it was only 2016. And so I'd never thought about voiceover before that. And after that, I just kind of, dipped a toe or whatever. And it went from me volunteering to do stuff to people wanting to hire me to do stuff. And I'm like, okay, so there's something here. Let me see. But I've always been somebody also that, this is probably digressing to a different question. I made kind of a decision from the very beginning of starting to pursue this professionally. And that was that I'm doing it my way or not at all. I have the education, I have the means. I know I'm good at other things. I don't need this to survive. I don't need this to pay my rent. I'm not doing this. I'm not in a way where I have to take projects that I don't want to do in order to pay for my bills. I don't want to be in that situation. And so it either works or it doesn't, and I have to be okay with that. And, it meant that certain things went slow, but certain things worked out much better because I can say I'm happy with all my work or most of it or whatever. And yeah, that's kind of very much shaped my path and my decisions thereafter. And when I thought like voiceover, obviously my first thought was like, oh my God, video games. Yeah. To be in the things I play.
I'll say, first off, I want to say it's cool that we're not even 30 minutes in this podcast and you've already gone like full on inspirational for us. I love that.
Yeah. They totally try.
I want to say, sorry, I was gonna say,
yeah, go for it.
I was gonna say, secondly, it's funny they actually bring up the video games. Like, I assume, like, obviously you have the, you've got a love for this, career that you've definitely gone into, but, like, was the love for video games also something that may have led you in that direction as well, or is that just something that sort of just...
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. Like, the thing is, I was lucky enough that, like, I had computers in my house my entire life, which for somebody who was born in 1990 isn't necessarily a given, because the personal computer and Windows and everything, it was like around 1995. We had like the old Sinclairs and things like that in my apartment. I remember in our house, and it was I was like playing Frogger and stuff, and I was like mashing buttons, and then oh my God, all of a sudden we had a PC at home and stuff like that. It just I was very lucky, and I have an older brother who's 7 years older who's also very, very techie, and he's just naturally picked all this up while I was still, like a toddler. And so he guided me through a lot of this stuff. He was very influential in that sense, and really allowed me in, because that's not necessarily the case with every brother-sister relationship, especially when there's a bigger age gap. But he had me there with him all the time. We were playing Mortal Kombat. I remember Mortal Kombat 4 that just blew my mind because it was the first one that was in 3D. And there were these blood cubes bouncing around, but it was just the most amazing thing. There's this kind of like awe with every next game that came out with what you could see and what you could do. And that's such a formative thing for me. And, I was 9 when Unreal Tournament came out. And, we were playing on dial-up. And it was so good because the neighborhood kids just going crazy. And all of a sudden, everybody in the neighborhood had an ADSL line because the parents were just like, we can't fight them anymore. Our phone bills are going to bury us.
Oh, that's insane.
Yeah, games have always been a big part of my life. Always, always.
Honestly, I'm so glad that you said you experienced all of this when you were a child and stuff. For me, because it was so rare for us to get a computer, because me and my brother had to share like this one big ass computer back in the 90s and stuff like that. And it's funny too, just because the game that I used to play so often, and it's not a thing that would be everyone's favorite or anyone even knows about its existence, but it's like this game is like when there's like this balloon monkey, right? And you have to slap it, and you get a lot of points while Jungle Boogie plays.
Oh, I love it! I love it! Oh my god! But the thing is, they're just such creativity and fun. There's fun in games, in the creation of games. It's not just the playing. It's you can see where where the creators of those games came from. It's just like, you just want to be a bit silly. We just want to, share that joke even.
I mean, you've definitely become a part of that, more or less, definitely now more than ever with some of the games that you've been involved with as such. I do want to say, like, going back a little bit, like, obviously whenever you first decided, hey, I want to go full on head first into, like, doing this thing my own way, was that part of the reason why you decided to go all in with all this different kind of training and such with sword and shield and like different weapons or whatnot, or was that something that kind of developed beforehand that just helped you along the way?
I mean, it was just another thing that I loved. You know what I mean? I thought it was just freaking cool. Okay,
yes, it is. No, I'm not denying it.
No. It's just like, if you think, I saw Lord of the Rings. It came out 2001. I saw the movies and went crazy. But even before that, like, horses have always been. I've been obsessed with horses since I was a teeny tiny baby. I like love any kind of medieval stuff and whatever. It's just things I gravitated towards. And again, when you come to the UK, stage combat is such a developed skill. There's such a network of training for that kind of stuff, where, you know, I dabbled in other martial arts and stuff like that, but it never, I said that for Battlefield, but it never scratched the right itch, because you're just getting pummeled session after session. You know what I mean? After a while, you're just like, I'd like to have a day when I don't hurt.
Yeah.
But it's so when I decided, hey, I'm going to pursue video games, I also came across another line of training, which was for motion capture, and there hadn't been anything like that really before. Like, it was just around those couple of years that the veterans of early motion capture actually decided, hey, actually, I'm going to start up a school to share my knowledge to get more people into motion capture, because there's a lot of work here. Mm-hmm. And so I jumped on that pretty quickly, and from day one was like, this is really cool. This is something I can do as somebody who's had a lot of physical education, you know, growing up and competed in various sports and things like that. So I knew I was physically capable, and I knew how to do choreography. I knew I had very good body awareness, which is something you desperately need for motion capture. But Yeah, I was like, well, I want to do motion capture as well. And you combine voice and motion capture, you got performance capture, right?
Yeah.
So it was all going into that one thing. But I thought, well, what do they mocap? What sets you apart from others? What kind of skill sets would I need? I know I'm not going to be a gymnast. That ship has sailed. I'm not gonna be this crazy parkour tricker. It's not gonna happen. That I'm not that kind of athlete. But fighting I can do.
Yeah.
And so I'm 5'8". I have a muscular build. I know that I fall into a lot of those warrior / military archetypes very naturally, and so I just went straight into that. So yeah, I've been training with a company called Independent Drama here for years, and it's just been really, really fun. It gets really hard sometimes, and physically it's really demanding, because if you think one fight already, like anybody who's ever done any kind of serious sparring would know that it 2-3 minutes of it, you're just done. With stage combat, it's a little bit more like dancing because it's a choreography, but you have to do that 20 times over. You have to do that for as many takes as it takes to get the right take.
Right.
So there is a physical component to it. And I used to dabble a little bit more in stunt training and doing a lot of the falls and things like that, because stunts, to be honest, most of them are falling down. Most of stunt work is like just taking that hit. And a bit of wire work and things like that. But I've kind of, since the pandemic, kind of moved away because obviously training's been inconsistent and I'm not getting any younger. Yeah. Can't take those hits like I used to.
I was going to say, fair enough. I know. So whenever I was in college for filmmaking and such, there would be some stuff to where there would be some choreography. And one of the people that I constantly went back to, a guy by the name of Max Steele, that's legitimately his name, that like he was very good with the choreography with some of that kind of stuff. And even then, that was like the basic, base level of that kind of training. But even then, like sometimes it could be demanding with how you have to fall a certain way, how you have to like do stuff a certain way or whatnot. So I can only imagine, like, especially in the step up, when you have to do that over and over again to make sure it is just right to get that, I guess, AAA quality at times. I can only imagine just how demanding it can be at times.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, fighting isn't the most demanding thing to mocap at all, because you usually do a limited amount of takes. In mocap, it moves really fast. So what tires you out is the amount of movement you have to do in a day, not repeating that sequence. Because it's, if you think of film production, every time they yell cut, reset, there's an amount of time that you as an actor get that where you can just go, okay, let me just reset a little bit while everybody resets lights, cameras, whatever. You have none of that in mocap. None. Like, when they yell cut, resets, they're already ready to go, because all they're doing really is labeling and pressing the record button.
Right.
You're surrounded by those cameras. And so, the amount of downtime between takes is how long it takes you from getting from your end spot back to your first position. That's all the time. So you're constantly on the go. But something that I now do less of, but definitely, it's something that every mocap performer, I think, goes through. Let's say for purely mocap performers, like, Nolan North probably never did any of this stuff, or maybe he did. But I would be surprised if he did it. Is locomotion shoots, in-game animations, because what's sexy to record is the cinematics, because that's straight up acting. But right. In-game animations are the animations that you guys see all the time, but they need to be little chunks of turn 90 degrees left, 90 degrees right, 180 left, 180 right. Now it's actually in, now you actually have to do it in 45 degree increments. So turn 45, turn 90, turn 135, 180, and back, and that kind of stuff. And so you're doing all these things. You have to do the walks, the runs, the sprints, the crouch walks. Jesus. Oh my God.
I can only imagine.
When you have to do crouch animations, when you're like stealthing around, you have to do crouch animations, and you're doing all this because it's all a spreadsheet. It's a spreadsheet of moves, and you're just going, got it, hopefully. that quickly, but that's how they want to record it. You just go from one thing to another. Let's just go, go, go. I mean, I've had to tell them that we should put all of those towards the very end of the day, because anything that will be recorded afterwards will be crap, because I won't be able to walk anymore. It is so excruciating. And to this day, when I see a character like crouch walk in a game, I get like a little bit of sympathy, like tension in my quads. Like, genuinely, I'm like, oh God, I'm scarred for life. But yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I will be the first to admit that you are the first motion capture actress that we have ever had on this podcast. But so this is the kind of stuff that both I expected to hear, but at the same time, like, I'm still surprised to hear it, because it doesn't really surprise me that, you know, all the stuff that kind of goes into it to eventually lead to what looks like a fluid motion that, you know, can be taken from like several takes, or even just like a single take done at like the end of the day. But I can also understand just how physically demanding it could be to like make sure it's the exact right way that the animators need it to be, so they can produce the product that they want perfectly in their mind.
Yep, exactly. And it's like it's a really fun process that has moments that are like a bit like, okay, I'm just gonna have to power through this because there's nothing nice about it. But my top tip in this respect for any budding mocap performers is don't skip leg day.
There you go.
Don't skip leg day, because you're gonna pay for that.
Yeah, leg day is vital. I was gonna say, words are wonderful.
I love words.
I know, they're perfect. I mean, even then, like, you know, but I mean, nevertheless, like you said, like, it's probably still a rewarding experience at the end of the day, knowing that the small things you might be doing here and there will eventually be translated into some of the stuff that not only yourself, but thousands, even millions of people are going to play. And, you know, they might not recognize the small movements, but like when the entire product as a whole is wonderful and everyone appreciates it, I can only imagine how rewarding that can be for you.
Yeah, definitely. It's always a team effort, and that's how I take everything, like my performance. That's my take on working with studios as well. I think anybody who's ever worked with me may echo this. I hope they would. Where I'm very, very collaborative, and always sort of more looking at the bigger picture rather than this is my performance, mine.
Right.
Definitely not how it goes, you know. And for me, I'm not just happy for myself. I'm happy for everybody that's put in. It takes a village, you know, and everybody that's put so much work and time and effort into this game, that when it's received positively is, you know, rewarding is the right word, but I don't feel like it's a strong enough word to really reflect that feeling when it does, you know, when people do get it and enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Love for everybody.
Love for everyone all around. And I'm sure that you definitely get a lot of love for a lot of your performers. Sorry, you gonna say something, Maria?
No, I was just repeating what you guys were saying.
There you go. Sorry, my bad.
Everybody say love.
Love.
Some RuPaul there.
There you go.
RuPaul references.
I was gonna say, I imagine you probably still get like a whole lot of love with some of the performances. And one that I personally wish got a little bit more love was some of the performances for Battlefield 2042. I know online it's a very mixed reaction or whatnot, but I mean, even then, like for you, like you can correct me if I'm wrong. Up until that point, until another game that we were talking about, that's probably was like the most involved you've probably been with a video game. You can correct me if I'm wrong or whatnot.
Yeah, I would say the funny thing is, there's the games that have come out. Mm-hmm. And then there's the games that I've already worked on. I've been working on games quite intensely for the last, to be honest, I did a couple before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit. The second it hit, it was just project after project that came my way, which was insane. I was not expecting it because everything else shut down for everybody else. And all of a sudden, I'm here being dragged out in lockdown 1, being dragged into mocap volumes, no auditions, just, we know she can do it, just go, because people are trying to finish stuff. which gave me some amazing experiences. But yeah, I've been working on a bunch of like titles in one of my profiles that's like an industry profile, casting thing, and it's like confidential.
NDAs are a beautiful thing.
Yeah, so I've got projects that are, I worked on 2 years ago that haven't come out yet.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe they never will. Who knows? But that's how it normally is. You do the job, and you have to literally wait years before you can talk about it. But of the games that have come out, it is one of, it's probably the most involved one before, obviously, Five Nights at Freddy's. Because even with Total War, I was still, I'm a player character there, so it's not like it's a minor role, but yeah, it's a bit nuts.
but even then, like, as much of a love and dedicated fan base there is for Warhammer and such, like the Battlefield fan base, like they can be some ravenous dogs at certain points, but the fact that you get to be a part of that, and as someone that enjoys video games, one that enjoys that game alone, again, like how was that kind of experience just as a whole being a part of that game?
Well, let me tell you how I found out I got it.
Yes, please.
To preface this, Battlefield 1942 was a game that me and my brother played to death. Ooh. We were part of a clan. It was like it was on TeamSpeak, okay? We were like on TeamSpeak with these guys in a clan, these guys from Scotland that eventually came to visit and everything. Like it was like the thing for years. And it was like, okay, then I kind of, dipped out of it and got into other stuff. And so I started working with this studio called Side UK. They're kind of a lot of AAA studios outsource voice stuff to them. Mm-hmm. And I had just finished recording another game for them, and they were like, can you just quickly do an audition for this one? We think you might be good for this one. Mm-hmm. I'm like, all right, generic military audition. Then a million of them. Oh, you want a Russian accent? Okay, fine. Let's go for it. Let's do it. Easy. Mm-hmm. And they're like, okay, yeah, great. A couple days later, oh yeah, you got it. I'm like, great. And then I'm waiting. Nobody told me. I'm like, yay game, yay work. But fine. Mm-hmm. And then usually from the paperwork, the NDAs and things like that you get to sign, you can usually tell, if it's a certain studio, you're like, it's probably that. Yeah, you can kind of discern it. But I couldn't from this paperwork. I'm like, what is it? Okay. They'll probably tell me, they'll send me the scripts the day before to peruse, and they'll probably tell me then, or like I'll just know from the scripts what this is. Nothing. And I get to the studio on the day, I get into the booth, and they're miking me up. And all of these are obviously directed remotely. So they're just me and the engineer, because COVID safety. So it's just me and the engineer there. And everybody else like zooms in, and they're saying, okay, yeah, let's just play back the audition and we'll just jump right into it. I'm like, whoa. Can you tell me anything about this game? Like, tell me something. Like, what kind of game is it? Is it like a first-person shooter? Is it a, action adventure? Like, is it a God view game? What is it? The guy's like, didn't we tell you? Oh, all right. Well, the game is Battlefield. I'm like, what?
No, they're just so casual about it, I guess. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, it's Battlefield.
They're like, and it's really good. I didn't know, because I would have totally psyched myself out the night before if I knew what it was. But literally, I was like I had a minor, like, just, I don't know what, like, seizure in there.
Just like years of memory, just like spiking you at that one particular moment. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. God, I got that. Like, even my agent didn't know that it was that, So it was crazy. But yeah, no. So the guy, Justin, was the guy that was directing me for the session. He loved it. He was laughing out loud. Just a lovely human being, and you know, and I do hear that because I have several friends from these studios. You know, we either work together or meet in various industry events, and I'm very lucky that a bunch of them are my friends. You know, I can call them my friends, and we actually play games together pretty often. But they're like, yeah, it's actually really rewarding when you do get an actor, because, like I said, it's not actually that common for video game actors to play video games. It's not a prerequisite. It's, you know, they're like, it's fun to get somebody who is just excited about video games as we are, because it kind of reminds you why you're there. That was like one of the biggest compliments anybody's ever said to me. But it was just, then from that moment, we just kind of clicked and we're like, yeah, we're on the same page here. We're just going to get this done. And it was really fun. It was really fun just recording all this stuff. And again, for people that don't know, video game scripts very rarely come in script form. It's an Excel spreadsheet.
What?
Yeah, it's an Excel spreadsheet. Well, those lines have to be coded and placed into certain points in the game, right? So they need to have that side to it, as well as the words. They have to know exactly where in the game this is supposed to go, and, you know, figure out how often it triggers, how, you know, there's a whole technical component to it that's very complex.
The entire time it's just like somebody just written it like that in like Word docs or something.
Well, I mean, even then, like, I imagine, especially for what you were doing for that role in particular, it was like more of a reactionary thing for like what was going on in the middle of a game or something along the lines of that. That's why they needed it.
It's commenting on the state.
Yeah, exactly.
It's commenting on the state of play. It's giving you updates. It's also building the environment, of course, and setting the stage, or like the immersion. But it's even for dramatic scenes, I've had them in Excel spreadsheets. And it's, you just get used to it, really. But yeah, it's crazy. We got through a lot of lines. I've built up a little bit of a reputation now that I work very fast. You kind of get into that zone of that character. You take a moment and you kind of... also very physical in my performance, so I love it when, like, my type of microphone that we recorded with for Battlefield is the one that you kind of have on a cap. Normally, it's a little lapel mic here, like on stage. As opposed to a static mic like this one, like here, where you have to kind of like, if you want to move, you dance around it. Whereas here, it's like any way I looked, it
picks it up.
You know, it doesn't affect the sound. So it was really fun. It was really fun.
And once again, it's one of those, again, it must have been fun, very rewarding. So in fact, the story of, again, you know, you growing up, wearing out the original, like, Battlefield game, and then here you are working on, you know, the latest installment, like... I'm not gonna lie, when you start off by saying that, you know, you used to be in clan with all these Scottish people, I thought the follow-up line was gonna be, so the people that are working on this game were those same people in that same clan.
I mean, that would be pretty epic, but no, unfortunately not. DICE, the guys at DICE were from the States, although that part of the studio is based in Gothenburg, Sweden.
Okay. Fair enough. But even then, speaking of epic, why don't we get to the big dog of your repertoire at this moment, or I guess the big bear in this case, and that would be Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. How did this opportunity to even be a part of this game come to you?
Oh man, that's another interesting story. I get all these ones, like, weird ones. So I think most of the cast, I might be wrong here, but just from what I know, is U.S. based, and, you know, Steel Wool are a small studio, surprisingly small for the scale of game that they've shipped. It's unbelievable, and so they're not, you know, using Side UK and stuff like that to, like, do their casting for them. It's like, dude, it's not. That's like a Ubisoft, Electronic Arts level thing. And so I would probably never be on their radar as an international performer. And there's also, you know, there's certain restrictions to working with international talent and visas and stuff like that, which, like, for me, I luckily can go, I have a workaround for that. But it was, so the first person that I met before he was ever at Steel Wool is Ray McCaffrey, who's the executive producer. Now, Ray, I met through one of the people closest to me in my life, and that's a man named Aaron Rabinowitz, who, with a single DM, changed my life a few years earlier, because he's the guy that got me into the visual effects side of things. And he, again, another US-based person that was just amazing. But he was then my boss at a company called Red Giant that I worked for. I did community management for, various marketing stuff for visual effects software. And so I worked for him, and then through various things, life happens, acquisitions happen. He ended up leaving that company, was it end of 2020, and working for another company where Ray was at the time. And so I was like, well, I miss working with Aaron and things like that. So I interviewed for that company as well. And one of the people that I ended up speaking to was Ray.
Ah.
At that company. Yeah. And we were talking about, this is community management, community development, stuff like that. It was a video game company, but it was training games for doctors, essentially. It was a very different concept, but it had a lot of people from big game studios that were coming together. It's a very interesting company. But yeah, I ended up not going for that. But, Ray and I had such a great conversation, and we talked about everything. Like most of our conversation ended up not even being about the job. It was about just like, you're into Lord of the Rings too, and like games and like all that stuff. And we said a bunch of stuff in common. And he is genuinely one of the nicest, most like amazing and just unbelievably smart people that I've ever met. Like he is just one of those exceptional people that you like. You talk to him, you're just like, well, okay, you're something else. And so not a long time after that, I heard that he had left that company. I had no idea where he went. I heard that he had left that company for something else, and it went about my life. Until I suddenly get an email into my inbox, and it's like, Ray McCaffrey. I'm like, all right, interested in a gig. Go on. And he mentioned that he now works for Steel Wool, and they're looking for somebody to voice these characters. Originally, it was Roxy and Gregory. And I was like, I'll audition for it. Let's go. And when he sent me the audition sides for Roxy, I knew right away what she was going to sound like. Like in my head, I saw the character model. I was familiar with the FNaF franchise and the general feel of it. And what it was going for, and the sort of this little Gollum-esque thing that she was having of like a split personality. I was like, yeah, I got this. Fine. Gregory, on the other hand, I spent days pacing up and down this room because my booth is recorded here. This right here is where all those lines were recorded. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I've seen some booths like that. This
is where the magic happened.
Oh my god.
There we go. But yeah, so let's fix my camera. It always happens when I move the camera. Yeah, exactly. Just like a little shot up my nose. Anyway, so with Gregory, I was pacing up and down this room. I was like, I don't do kids' voices. You hear my voice, right? Like Ray's heard my voice. Why is he asking me to audition for a kid, for a boy? It's not like I've never ever attempted to do a child character ever. But I thought I gotta give it a shot. Listening to various references, contorting my voice, and trying to find a place where it's not just about doing the voice for that one phrase. You have to be able to emote in that. You have to be able to stay in that voice for a long session, for hours at a time, and not blow out your vocal cords. So it can't all be here. It has to sit naturally in a certain like part of this pipeline. And so I found something that I thought was acceptable, recorded the auditions, sent them over, told Ray, like, please listen to it and only forward Gregory if you're okay with it, because I'm not sure what the hell I just sent you. And, you know, within a day or so, I got a reply, and they're like, no, we want to hire you for both, because they absolutely loved it. It was exactly what we were looking for. I'm like, oh shit.
Well,
We're gonna have to do this now. I'm gonna have to do Gregory. Like, oh my god, and he's got the most lines.
Yeah.
Just so I was terrified. But I was super happy.
Yeah.
But terrified.
What was your, like, what, how did you came approach to those specific voices? What was your inspiration with those voices?
I mean, with Roxy, it's a different part of my life. You know, I'm a metalhead. I love heavy metal, and so I spent a lot of time in Europe. You have concerts everywhere all the time. Live music is such a ubiquitous thing, or at least it was up until 2020. There's such a culture around it, and so I spent most of my teenage years and a good part of my 20s really immersed in that world. And I even worked as a roadie for a thrash metal band. Oh. And so, you know, when you're in those, you know, festivals and everything, you come across a lot of these rock star women as well. These, you know, leading women that have a certain way of talking. They have a certain way of just being on that stage. And then what happens behind, like, what happens off stage is often very different, and a lot of them do have these moments. It's a tough existence. They have a lot of moments of like where they're not confident in what they're doing unless they're already there doing it, or they're not confident of some certain other parts of their life or something. And when you're, you know, like laying yourself bare essentially on stage every night, you're constantly in an emotionally a little bit more vulnerable state, and you can really fluctuate in that. And that confidence. And so I kind of had a little bit of that for Roxy. It wasn't so much, I don't approach a character like, the pitch of her voice should be this. It doesn't, that's always very disingenuous. You have to come from the character first. You have to come from where are they coming from, and everything else just flows from there. Because a character like that, to me, like her, would not sound high pitched. A character that looks like her, that moves like her, that has her role, would not have a squeaky voice. Mm-hmm. And so, and you know, with the whole like the hair and everything, I think she was much more kind of on the sultry side. And so for her persona, but then, you know, behind there's depth, and I think that's one of the things that I think people kind of reacted to as well. It's not a voice I'm doing. It's never a voice I'm doing. It's a character I'm portraying that you're hearing. So tries to come from within without. I'm trying not to sound like one of those like really pretentious actors, but it is that. It is that you have to kind of be that
more
put
or less
yourself
like
in that
scenario.
in
that character.
Yeah, you exist in that character, and you let that flow out. You get into that zone rather than I'm going to say something that's going to sound sad. That's never going to sound sad, because human beings are like, we're used to reading each other. You know, we can tell when something's not genuine, and we reject it. We're just like, that doesn't sound right. You might not be able to say why it doesn't sound right, but it won't sound right. So for Roxy was that. For Gregory, based on the brief that was sent to me, I kind of took it further and got a little bit more of inspiration from sort of the Home Alone type portrayals, like the 80s, 90s. God. Yeah, the 80s, 90s kind of family movie sort of things. Because of the lines, the way they were written, they very much fit into that genre of child performance. You know, like the Macaulay Culkin kind of like gee whiz, gosh, golly kind of stuff, like except trying to dial it back from there.
I just want to say, like, real quick that I'm so glad you said that, because as of recently, I was watching a clip from I don't know if you ever seen this movie called a Christmas Story or something like that. It was like about this little boy. All he wanted for Christmas is this toy pistol, right. But everybody keeps saying, "Oh, you're gonna shoot your eye out." And and it just gave me so much a Gregory vibe.
That was one of the big inspirations, right? That genre of movie, plus a little bit of I could listen to a lot of reference from animation, various animations, because it is women voicing those boys. It's I know that then I'm listening to reference that is potentially within my range to execute. Because, you start getting into the character and thinking about, like, I was trying to think of what the kids in my family, not my own, but like my brother's kids and cousins and various other relations, how they behaved, what they sounded like, little kid specific things, and trying to keep that and trying to get into that sort of place again where you would have that childish reaction to something and you would put a little bit more attitude into that voice, especially if your parents weren't there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was gonna say as well, like, obviously we also can't forget another key character that you got to voice as well, Vanny as well. How did that character how did that character come to you, and what was your kind of take when coming to, like, what was the inspiration behind that character as well?
Yeah, I mean, that one came as a surprise. We were mostly done recording Gregory. I think we were done recording Gregory at that point. We were just finishing up with Roxy, and all of a sudden they get sent a third script. I was like, they probably just sent that to me by mistake. It's fine. Because I'd get like an email attachment before our sessions. And they don't know, we want you to try Vanny as well. I'm like, okay, so 3 characters, they have to sound like they're not voiced by the same person. Okay, I'm gonna need a minute, because it was kind of on the spot. It was something that I had to, like, the other 2, I had time to figure out. With Vanny, it was kind of like they taught me through the character and everything, and we workshopped the voice right then and there. Mm-hmm. And it was trying to, I guess, it's just a child murder. so it's in a devious way, like, if I were to try to sound not non-threatening to whoever I was trying to bring closer to me, whoever I was, like, trying to convince that they should trust me, it definitely goes higher up, because higher up sounds a little less threatening.
Almost,
so it wasn't
about at points.
Yeah, exactly. So for Vanny, it was more, it's not the sound of her voice that's threatening. It's the words, and it's where she says them, and like her demeanor and everything. It's what she's saying. It's not supposed to, if you force it too much of trying to sound scary, then it doesn't sound scary. So it's trying to juxtapose what she's saying with how she's saying it that makes it creepy, right? That makes it, so I wanted to sound like very in opposition to what she was saying, like her voice. So it was, yeah, you find, for me, no villain's just a villain, right? That doesn't work. Nobody's evil for the sake of being evil. Mm-hmm. So I did ask more about the lore, because I had played FNaF 1 and 2, but then I was a little bit more disconnected from the lore than would be insufficient for me to just know, oh, Vanny's this. Mm-hmm. And because she's a character that's already existed in there, as opposed to Roxy that hadn't really, it was important to get it right. So we kind of figured that out, where for me, like, she's somebody who's, well, she's brainwashed, but for me, there's a motivation, like, I need to get this kid or else, there's something there, but the only way she can get this kid is by being more inviting. And there is a side to her that would enjoy inflicting some kind of hurt on others for her own whatever reasons. And I'm not saying that's lore, by the way. That's just me trying to build up a story in my head with very little information.
That's very fair.
Yeah. Disclaimer, this is not lore. This is nothing that Steelwool has told me. This is literally me as an actor trying to fill in the motivational blanks when I was trying to say those words. And, and trusting that if anything ever went off piece or in the wrong direction, I had the guys there to tell me, let's try this differently and do this. That's a lot of acting. You give them, you make a strong choice to give them what you got in that moment and let them work with you to steer that into the direction that's ultimately right for the story.
Right. I mean, nevertheless, like what you were able to fill in there and the performances you gave on all three characters were, I'm sure, Tipsy can agree with me, absolutely outstanding and like really immersed.
Thank you.
Yes. Like I was just like, the moment I was like, because my computer is too crappy right now to even like even play like FNaF. But I was just watching like Markiplier just playing the game because this is how I enjoy things. Like when I was like reading the credits and stuff, I was like, you know what? Let me see who's been doing these voices and stuff. I saw Ragland, and then I saw you doing all three voices, and I'm like, wait a minute. I was just impressed of how like you did not sound like the same person.
Good.
that is a credit to your acting skills, if nothing else.
There's a lot of people, I think, that were very shocked by that, whereas I was just terrified that maybe it was. The thing is, you have to trust the process. You have to trust the people that are making the game to have a critical ear to the performances, right? And that's why it's so important that you work with them and that you take all the feedback that they're giving you, because they're looking out for that, right? And so you have to, as an actor, there's always this kind of, I think, misconception that you have this power over the portrayal of a character, where there is really very limited power that you have over the final product, right? You give what you have to give the way you're asked to give it. And the rest is just trusting the team and the process, that, the final result is going to work out because they have an interest in it working, they don't want it to work. And so like, I would be like, yeah, it'd be fine. If they're happy, I'm happy. But then I have this sort of more anxious mind where I'm like, it had moments where like, but is it going to sound different enough? Are they going to sound like apart enough? Because they're literally talking to or next to each other. Mm-hmm. And it's, if I didn't get it right, it was gonna be noticed by a community that's as dedicated as the FNaF community. It was gonna get noticed.
Yeah. But nevertheless, even with that committed community, I think like everyone can easily agree that this was an incredible performance by you and an incredible game at the end of the day. So more than anything else, thank you for taking thank you for putting it. Are you amazed by the reception that this game has gotten in general?
Yeah, I am. I put it this way. I was aware that it's a very dedicated community. I was aware that people love these characters before my performances, right? Before I went into the studio, we had a few weeks between when the session started. I went and binged like literally all of Markiplier's playthroughs of FNaF. All of them. And a few extras because I wanted to know everything that I could reasonably know before I went into the studio. I wanted to understand because I knew where the game started. but I wanted to understand where the FNaF universe was now. It was super important to me as somebody who's, a video game fan. That's what matters to me. It makes a difference when the people make it, the actors, if you ask me personally, this is my personal opinion, it makes such a difference in an actor's performance, especially in an established franchise, if they know what the state of the game is at that point in time, especially for games that are heavy on narrative and lore and things like that. You have to know. Mm-hmm. So I went and binged all of it. I was like, I'm going to be prepared. Let's just do this and do it right.
I bet you could probably do a good Markiplier impression at this point, can't you?
If only my voice went that low. That guy's voice is entirely too good, and I'm mad about it.
Hello, everybody. My name's Markiplier.
But he just does this resonant baritone, just like it's like butter.
There you go. It's a lovely like I can understand.
I could just listen to it all day.
He could read me a phone book. I've said this with another guest. He could read a phone book, and I would probably stick on to just about every single number he says. Okay.
Yeah. Just like it's just like I can't even handle the amazingness of his voice.
I just absolutely love it when he just goes that shit and he stresses out. Like there was like this one point. I think you've seen it. There was one point in the game when he couldn't get out of the laser tag area, and he just been freaking out of where the exit is. He's like, "Where am I? I won the game."
My favorite part was when he was freaking out because he was trying to call Freddy to save him from Monty.
Yeah!
And Freddy was on the upper level and he was on the lower level, and Freddy just going up and down. And he's like, Freddy! I was done. Oh my God, it was great. But back to the original question. I expected a reaction. I did not expect the amount of reaction and the overwhelming love for the game, and I wasn't expecting the attention, right? I've been in games before, and it's normally oh, that's cool, you're the voice actor, not like, oh my God, I love you, or literally Roxy, marry me. And I'm like, okay. Let me think about that.
I was gonna say, I believe, I can personally say when it comes to Roxy or whatnot, you definitely did a really good performance, and I see why people are instantly clinging on to that performance.
You said the right word.
Yeah, it's the it was just this wave of amazingness. I cannot stress how grateful I am for that outpouring of love from people, and people express it in different ways, but I know everything comes from a good place, and I really, really appreciate it. I love seeing the fan art and things like that. But it was a bit intense, but just an amazing experience even now. I love being part of the community as well. I do actively look through stuff. I've a couple of other interviews as well, and just engaging with people. I can't answer any questions around whether various animatronics are in relationships and things like that. That's not up to me to answer. These characters are for you guys. You know what I mean? If you want to make that part of the story, make it part of the story. Do it.
I know you can't comment on certain relationship stuff, but I do at least want to know, at least in your opinion, or maybe I'll ask for Roxanne for this one. How would she take kind of the reception that she's been getting from these games or whatnot?
Oh, she'd love it. She'd be right up front and center. That the whole crying thing. No, she'd be too busy being literally. She'd be planting pictures of herself everywhere. She'd be putting her own posters up. Do you know who I am?
Do you know who I am?
Yeah. Just, do you know? She wouldn't have to say, I bet I'm your favorite. It'd be, I'm your favorite.
I am your favorite. Point blank, period.
Or I better be your favorite.
It's I know, no more words, but you can keep saying. But yeah, no more words.
Yeah.
You can keep talking.
No, she'd be like, no, keep talking. You want to be in my presence? You keep talking. Come on. I'm waiting.
I just want to say, like, it was so interesting when I saw, like, because I saw, like, a frame of, like, Roxanne and, like, Vanessa's office. I was like, wait a minute. What? Was that, like, some sort of special birthday gift or Christmas?
Yeah, no, I love that somebody had a, I don't know if it was Daco or somebody else, one of the streamers who just said, keep finding like pictures of Roxy on people's desks. Do you think that she just goes around at night like planting photos of herself? Like, like people know that she's the best. She's the most popular one.
I can only imagine.
It's pretty great.
I also want to ask about a different character because, again, I know you can't comment. I want to know at least your opinion on one particular theory around Gregory in particular. So I've heard a rumor here and there that the main reason why he's been able to navigate some of this stuff is because he himself is also an animatronic. Do you believe in that theory, or is that an interesting one? Or
I think it's a fascinating theory, and let me just tell you, I took the Tom Holland approach to a lot of this stuff. Whereas, like, I do not want to even, like, bear the burden of knowing some of this stuff. Because I don't want to be, talking, like, say, on a podcast and letting something slip. I genuinely do not know what the right one. But I think it is absolutely a really, really fascinating theory. And like, as a fan, there's a lot of like stuff around it that makes sense, but then it doesn't entirely. Like you can't just say, yeah, that's definitely it. Like so, I think it's just a perspective that is so interesting on the character. But for me, like recording it, it's a like 9-10-year-old boy. Just that's what it is. So if it is, freaking cool. If it's not, I have no idea. I'm definitely not one of those people that went out like for Matt Pat and was like, oh no, this is stupid. I'm like, it's a theory.
A game theory.
A game theory. And it's a damn good one.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you can quote me on that.
There you go. I have to
love Matt Pat.
Amen to that. I have to know just in general when it comes to just this entire reception and everything with that kind of stuff, especially considering just how far you've come, to the fact that you started from a point to where like it'd be impossible to think of yourself playing some of these games like the Unreal or like the Battlefields, to think that you're in this position now to where you're involved with some of the biggest video games and you're getting a lot of love for your performance in some of these video games. Does it ever like surprise you, like just take a step back and just being like, how in the world did I get here? Yeah, pretty much. That's been the last few months when these two games came out. I've got another couple coming out in the next couple of months as well. And I'm just like, is this real life? Like, I'm still, the part, like, again, like when we're loading into Battlefield, I'm like, it's me. Like, I'm just some rando here, like, loading into a video game I'm going to play, and it's just bizarre. And at the same time, I haven't been doing this for that long. I'm not a classically trained actor. I'm I only really got into like training for video games, let's say beginning of 2017. Really, that's kind of when it all began. And I've been extremely fortunate that I have had the opportunity to work on these games. Like that's my first feeling when it comes to it. It's like I'm so like there's so much gratitude for being chosen to be part of something this epic. But it is bizarre that now all of a sudden, I'm in a position where people are asking me for autographs or asking me for selfies or shout outs and things like that. I'm just me. Like, I don't have this kind of like, this, I don't think I'm almost worthy of that, like that kind of attention. It's been very strange. It's been lovely. It's been, and I try to give
as much of myself as I can, and sort of as a thank you for people even wanting to pay attention to me and my work. So yeah, it feels very surreal. I haven't quite reconciled sort of the shift in terms of, I guess, perception at the moment, because it's also a few people in the voiceover community now that have sort of now approached me with a different kind of approach of something. She's in Five Nights at Freddy's. She's in Battlefield. and I'm like, I am literally it's
like at the end of the day, I'm still Marta.
I'm the same person. Yeah. But now I'm gonna walk around with like my nose in the air, go like, yes. Do you know who I am? I'm Gregory in Five Nights at Freddy's. Whatever. Where's my red carpet?
There you go.
It's not that. It's wonderful. It's bizarre. And really my goal in terms of that is just to meet as many people as possible. Like hopefully I'll get out in the convention circuit and start meeting people in person, because that's what I really enjoy in that respect. It's hopefully also in the States, because the States are a bit trickier when it comes to work visas and things like that. I don't know what kind of paperwork yet I would need to get to American conventions, but I'll figure it out.
If you ever do, I am definitely on board of staying you.
Oh, there we go. Do it.
Yep. I will travel wherever I need to just to give a hi. You remember me?
And I'll remember.
I hope so.
Screenshot this right now.
I was gonna say it's probably gonna be. No, I'm joking. This isn't gonna be the teaser clip. I was gonna say, Tipsy, do you got any other questions before I start going to the home stretch of questions?
Oh, God. Do I have a question? Yes, I do. I have about two.
Go for it.
If you had any control over the endings for Five Nights at Freddy's, which ending would you prefer, or which ending would you have wanted it to be?
Spoiler warning for people that haven't played.
Spoiler alert. I think it's the one that where they save Vanessa, or like whatever. Yeah, it's Vanessa that comes with them, isn't it? I should know this. I don't. Because they're not voiced. You know what I mean? The endings aren't voiced, so I didn't even know. So yeah, it's the one where is it Vanny or Vanessa that goes out and they're all sitting on that hill with a Freddy head? It's Vanessa, isn't it? Like Vanny disappears and then Vanessa. Yeah, it's Vanessa. So that's the one where they're all on that hill eating ice cream. That's my favorite. I like nice endings, There
we go.
I like nice things.
There you go. And what's your second question now?
My second question, I guess, if you were to, I had to take off my glasses for this because I actually had to think of how to approach this. I guess, like, if you yourself were to be in that particular game, what position would you want to be? Would you want to be the security guard? Would you want to be the technician, or even the manager?
In what do you mean? In the
Five Nights at Freddy's game.
So in Security Breach specifically, or okay. I don't know. I don't. It's genuinely that this is not something I've ever thought about. So whether in Security Breach, if I would be in it, if I was a security guard, the manager, or the technician, as in like people sending the notes.
Yeah. Like what position would you want to be?
In the Pizzaplex.
You want to be in the pizza place?
No. I don't know what position. Like, I'm not sure entirely. I'm sorry. I'm not sure I entirely understand the question. So, as characters in the game,
yeah,
there's in Security Breach, you have the security guard Vanessa, but you don't really have, like, they send notes, but they're not really characters, like the manager and the management and the technician.
Yeah. I was just like thinking, like, if there was those any.
If there were, okay.
Yeah.
Right. I'd want to. Probably between the technician and the manager, because probably the technician. The technician probably sees some interesting things. Yeah. Like you get to see the guts of the robots and tweak things and fix things. I like that.
I was gonna. I think there's
and
a
hopefully
VR,
not die.
There is a VR game out there to where you are technically one of the technicians for like these robots and stuff. So if you want to look it up, there you go.
There you go. Live dangerously.
Yep. There you go.
See how the sausage is made.
Exactly. In that case, if I was in this situation, I would want to be as far away from there as possible. So probably the manager.
It's like to live dangerously. Okay.
Fair enough.
I live at the edge, Matt.
There you go. But nevertheless, we've been talking a good bit about like where you've come from, all these different games you've been involved with, and I'd love to talk about some of the games that are coming out, but I imagine if you even breathe an ounce of some of that stuff, NDA will destroy each and every single one of us. So it's
probably just a drone waiting outside.
Oh, look, there's... So how about instead, I like to go instead with giving you, if I may say, the dream scenario. Let's say I am Big Shot Mr. Moneybags. I come up to you and I'm like, look, Marta, just about everything you've had a hand in since you've gone full on into this world has been absolutely outstanding. We love your enthusiasm. We love the effort that you put into each and every little performance that you give, and we know you can give some absolutely incredible ones. We have connections to anyone and everyone, and we have more money than there should be possible. We should probably be developing so many cures for so many diseases. We'll focus on that later. But right now, the money is all yours. If given this opportunity, what would be the Dream Marta project?
As a game? Or
whatever. The money is yours. You could do whatever you want with it. Or, like I said, you have connections to anyone and everyone.
I mean, it's already kind of currently in production, not involving me, but the Silmarillion, the Lord of the Rings, like the Silmarillion side, that is like the top, because it's like a massive Tolkien nerd. I would want to be able to tell the story from the very creation through the first age, second age, obviously third age is Lord of the happenings of the Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to bring that to life, but with the aesthetic that was set by Weta Workshop and Peter Jackson, and using that aesthetic, that spirit of it, and just going through the ages. I would love to bring that to life.
That sounds amazing.
That is just
imagine like how lived in that environment can be for those different ages or whatnot, especially with that aesthetic that Peter Jackson had set. Like, goodness.
Exactly. And there's so much interesting storytelling. Like, you have Gondolin in the first age, which in itself is just this like, hidden elven kingdom that, nobody except people in the know can find. And like this... The whole thing with the Valar and everything. I'm gonna try not to ramble on too much about this because I can talk about this for another hour.
I can imagine.
At least. But yeah, it's that.
Okay, you know what? That's fair enough. And honestly, like even just you describing it, I'm instantly sold, and I would love to delve headfirst into that kind of environment. Because good lord, but sadly, we have to come down from the dream scenario. We gotta get back to reality. I know, and I'll ask the ever so generic question: where do you hope to see yourself 5 to 10 years from now?
Oh my god, I have no idea. I hope I'm still working as an actor.
Yeah.
I hope I'm still working on projects that I love. That's as much as I can hope for because so much of this stuff you can't plan 5-10 years in advance. All you do is see what's going on in the next sort of year or so at most, or rather say, I'd like a serious shot at these kinds of projects. Mm-hmm. Like, I'd like to do more on-screen work. So that's my next thing right now. Is I feel that I've got some good momentum with games, and I feel quite comfortable. Mm-hmm. So when you're feeling comfortable, you want more, right? So you're starting to try to break through more into on-screen work, and more, featured roles in film and TV. Would love to start working with Netflix, and Amazon Prime at those. But again, I can't really say, oh, it's a plan. It'll happen. All I have to do is like train up, have my reels and everything, be ready that when I put myself in the way of that opportunity, and if it comes, that I'm ready for it. That I'm ready to, get it over the line. That's all I can hope for, really.
I mean, it's a good thing to aspire for. I mean, considering the fact that you've only been on this little acting, aspect of it for 5 years alone. Exactly. Like, what you've been able to do at this point is already a testament on its own. So, I mean, if that's what you could do in your first 5 years, who knows what could happen in the next 5 to 10, right?
Oh, I've been very fortunate. I do have a tiny role in I don't know if it's out yet, even. I should know. Is
it the 355? So bad with this.
The 355, yeah. I don't have a speaking role. It was a special action role, so it's kind of bolted onto the stunt team, mm-hmm. where I'm basically one of the CIA agents running around looking very serious with a gun, doing a raid on a building, and going around.
That's a good step in the right direction, or at least a good full-on charge with a weapon. But nevertheless,
yeah. I got some stories from that set too. That was crazy. I wasn't there for very long, but that was pretty nutty.
I'll say, do you got a quick one before I go to my last question?
Nah, it's too long. It's too long. It's yeah.
Fair enough. Well, if that's the case, obviously, as we're winding down the interview, I just have one last question that I want to ask. Obviously, you're deeply entrenched when it comes to art, acting, video games, just the world of performance more than anything else. How important is art, not just for you, but for the world as a whole?
I mean, it's art for me. It just gives us something more than the daily grind. It's something that's for everybody. I think that people have lost that a little bit, maybe in defining art too narrow the term or terms, or dismissing other things that still are art because it's subjective at the end of the day. But it's so important because it keeps us connected to well, I guess humanity in some way. Like, the concept of being able to create and do and experience and comprehend something more than what we are looking at or doing on the daily in the daily grind, or to survive, or like think of the eating, the sleeping, the going for me to be the basic things. It's our ability to create and comprehend art is what separates us from the chimps and like other animals. It's something that's so uniquely human and wonderful and personal to everybody that it is critical that we get to express that and experience that regardless of how hard times get. That's the stuff that we're fighting for, to be able to then focus on that, not just surviving, to be able to experience that and enjoy it and have something more in our lives.
Exactly. That is beautifully worded, if I do say so myself. Where's that Oscar?
Thank you. I'd like to thank my parents and this podcast.
Especially thank the podcast, Postmodern Art Podcast, for those who don't remember. No, I'm joking. Anyways, but like I said, that's all the questions I have for you. I've already showered you with a bunch of praise. I'm gonna shower you with a little bit more. I'm sure Maria will as well. But it's our podcast. We do whatever we want. I'll go ahead and start off by saying that obviously, like, getting a chance to even talk to you was an honor for me. It's something that I've been hyped about ever since Maria here was the one that said, hey, I got in contact with her and she's interested. I was ecstatic to know that I got the chance to not only talk to someone that is a part of an industry that I love dearly, but as part of, like, some interesting roles and some significant parts, and I love that insight already. But, like, getting a chance to actually talk to you, hear your stories, hear kind of where you came from and how you got to this point and how this has all been taken in or whatnot, like, it's been outstanding and a rewarding experience to get to talk to you. And I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to do this. Genuinely, like, thank you so much for allowing us to be in your world for a quick hour or so.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. Like I said, I'm just me, and I just love the fact that people are interested in hearing about my work, and yeah, thank you for giving me a platform to talk about the stuff I love.
Absolutely. Maria, do you have anything you want to add to that, or your own praise?
I just want to say, you know, when I first saw you and stuff like that, I was just like, okay, she needs to be in our podcast because she looks like a super cool person and she sounds super cool. And I would love to have a conversation that I can remember and cherish for always. And it's exactly what you have brought to us, to be honest, because I really enjoyed every minute of like this entire conversation and just listening to your story and just everything. I just want to say 1,000 thank yous for even wanting to be a part of the podcast and not thinking I'm a crazy person coming into your DMs.
Sliding into my DMs.
Just gonna slide into your DM being like, hey. but really, in all seriousness, thank you so much, and thank you for all your amazing performance. It's just outstanding. 1,000 out of 1,000. Love it.
Thank you so much. Really, it means so much more than like the empty words of like, oh, it means so much. But it does really mean so much that you know you enjoyed the performance and that you know it made something good, make people feel good.
Yep.
Or sad when the melodramatic crying starts. You know what? I said that to Ray only last week. I said that to him. I was like, I cannot believe how well that cry worked out. Like, it genuinely pulls on people's heartstrings. When in the recording booth, I was busting out the most melodramatic cry I could muster to make that. I was like, fucking... you know, like just I was like, okay, this is the tongue-in-cheek part, and then they put in it with the with the modulation, and it's just like, no,
yeah,
don't cry.
I feel that every time she cries. I was like, oh no, I don't like this. I think if I ever do buy the game and that part plays, I'm just gonna be like, you did this to me. You made
like, no, murder robot, don't feel bad.
So sad.
So sad. For people who may not already know for one reason or another, go ahead and plug yourself for the people at home.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Marta Svetek. I'm a voice actor, and I like video games, and sometimes I voice act and mocap, I guess, in video games. So if you feel like following me, I also post a lot about like horses and things like that because I'm obsessed with them. So just, you're going to have to deal with that.
You say that like the bad thing.
And photography and things like that. So if you're interested in any of those things, then follow me on literally anything ever. My username is @MartHolio, and you will get bonus points for knowing what that reference is.
I certainly don't, so you guys have a leg up than me, so.
MartHolio? I can't tell it. Should I say it? Should I say it?
You can if you want. I'm not going to stop you.
You want to.
It's a Beavis and Butthead reference.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay, yes.
I knew
that was what my first thought was going to, but I'm like, no, it can't be that. It must be like some other like super niche thing.
I didn't want to say anything because I was just like, it can't be.
It's one of my most genius things because exactly that. Yes, you need TP for your bunghole. Yeah. It's one of my most genius things that I ever did because it's a gender neutral username. Mm-hmm. So if I use it in gaming, with the whole, it's not as bad now, but 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if you were online gaming, it's like, girl, you're a girl. Like
a woman.
TeamSpeak was only for when I was playing with people that I already knew.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's gender neutral, and the people that get the reference will be like, nice.
Yeah.
Whereas the people that don't get the reference aren't offended.
Yep,
because they don't get it. So it's like.
Well, now I think a lot more people are going to get the reference, and I'm glad that we got the reference.
God, you should know Beavis and Butthead. You should know the work of Mike Judge. Thank you very much.
My dad grew me, like, one of the things I would watch with my dad is, like, South Park and Beavis and Butthead. So I was raised warped, okay?
Those are some great animations, and I think that did the right thing.
Do you have any final words before we sign off?
I think I've said it all. I think we just finish on that. Doesn't get any better than this.
No, it does not.
Sorry, guys.
No, I think it's a great way to end. So with that, all I have left to say is for the people at home, hasta luego, mi amigos.
See ya.
Bye.
Tell me what's wrong, tell me sparks in motion. Sing me a song, tell me your eyes can all open. Show me it all, pick me up in the car you drove when you used to call. Show me it all.
Thanks for listening to the Apocalypse Podcast Network. For more great podcasts, go to apocalypsepodcastnetwork.com. And remember, every time you support one of our sponsors, you're supporting the podcast you just heard.
Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. If this is your first episode, I sincerely hope you enjoyed. Seriously, the vibe that me and Maria had with Marta, I mean, it was the exact kind of interview I always kind of hope for with each episode. Not that any episode has been really bad. I've enjoyed every single conversation, but this conversation, it just hit just right. I know Maria certainly had a lot of fun with the episode, so I'm certainly glad that we got the opportunity to talk to Marta, because seriously, like, she's like one of the like coolest, most laid back guests I've had on this podcast. Like, it was incredible. If you're coming back for another wonderful episode, hello. Pleasure to see you guys again. Hope you're doing well. I've said this a million times before, and I want to make sure you guys fully understand. Make sure you thank Maria Tipsy for this week's episode. She was the one that first got in contact with Marta and made this a reality. I mean, I have said it a million times before, and I'll say it a million times again. This podcast would not be on the level that it is. It would not have the love and support that I got if it wasn't for Tipsy providing a good foundation for episodes past, present, and future. So, Maria, if you're listening to this, thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough forever for this. But nevertheless, I sincerely hope you guys enjoyed. This was a fun episode. And I am excited for the episodes to come after this, because I sincerely hope you guys are going to enjoy it. And I more than anything else, I've said this a million different times, but I bring these guests on because I want you guys to make sure you support them. And Marta, like, she's already gotten like a whole ton of support ever since the security breach came out. But by God, show her more love. Like, she is fucking cool. No, it's incredible that I get an opportunity to talk to guests such as this. You know, I'm thinking back of, you know, whenever I was just starting out, even having like a guest like Super D on for the first episode. Having the director of one of my most cherished childhood shows, Class 3000, on. Incredible creators that are creating the stuff that I consume on a daily basis almost. Like, it's incredible the kind of people I get to talk to on this podcast, seriously. And I have you guys to thank for that. If you guys, knowing that you guys love and support this as much as I do, further drives me to keep going with this podcast. And whatever I may do to help make sure I provide you guys more. Because if you guys are enjoying it, I'm sure as hell more than enjoying it. Why not I make more, you know? Why not I make more? Alright. What inspirational thing shall I try to let you guys know today? I'll tell you what. Like I've established before, when it comes to something that you want to do dearly, something that you want to make happen, go out and do it. Like, you think I'd have an opportunity to talk to, you know, Marta or any guests I've had before if I didn't go out and ask them first and make sure I take the time to set up some quality questions for them? Nah. This would not be possible if I just sat back and didn't do anything about it. So for everyone else out there, if there is something you want to do, if there is something that you absolutely love, and you want to see be a reality, but no one else is going to make it, do it. Go out there and make it yourself. I mean, you heard Marta's story. I mean, it's one of those, like, when given the opportunity, like, she went out and made a name for herself, and look at her now. Being a part of incredible video games, some that, you know, are very popular, some that, you know, she loved when she was growing up. She was the one that made those opportunities a reality. Because that was something that she wanted to do, and she set out to do it. So if there's something you want to do, something you have been holding back on trying to make a reality in one aspect or another, don't hold back. Start whatever you can to make it reality. Make it real. Make it what you want. Because at the end of the day, nothing will fulfill you more than making sure what you have loved and desired is made a reality. I know you can do it. I believe in you. I think you can do a great job, superstar. Corny joke aside, seriously, like, go out there and do it. Like, I'll be there to support you. Absolutely. 1,000,000 times %. I promise.